A very good evening and welcome to this special programming coming to you live from NTV studios here at Serena International Conference Center. My name is Charles Mwangusha Mpagi. And this evening we'll discuss one of the most critical factors of production and how it affects the people who use it and those who are dispossessed of it. The question of land. It is one of the most finite resources. It's, I think, one of the most definitely finite resources that it can be expanded, yet populations across the world continue to grow, including in this country and in our communities. How most effectively can land be used to benefit those who own it, and especially one of the most disadvantaged segments of our society, who are the women? We'll be discussing with the panel here in studio and also joining us via Zoom link the question of addressing the land challenges, large-scale land-based investment tool. The question we need to be asking this evening, how do you address the challenge that comes with land where you have large-scale land-based investment? There's a tool that's been developed by Oxfam International in partnership with the East and Southern Africa Small-Scale Farmers Forum, ESAF, to deal with these challenges as we get big investors who want large chunks of land at the risk of dispossessing those who are on the land, especially the women. How do they benefit? How can they work together? Let me start by introducing my panel, which is in studio, and the other two panelists who are joining us via Zoom link. I will start with Eunice Nabakawa. Eunice, very nice to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm actually Eunice Nabakwa.
Nabakwa. Yes. Forgive me for the mispronunciation of the name, Nabakwa. Yeah. Nabakwa belongs to which, Nabakwa Yedirachi, like they say in Luganda. Oh,
it's a long story. It's supposed to be Nabachwa. It turned out to be Nabakwa, but I'm supposed to be from Ngonge clan, but I'm from Mbara, Western Uganda.
So people in Mbara don't have clans, you mean?
No, I'm a Muganda.
Yes.
I'm a Muganda from Ngonge clan.
From Ngonge clan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Very nice to have you. Eunice is a senior land officer at the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Next to Eunice is Charles Opio. Charles, very nice to have you.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers. I am grateful to be here. My name is Charles. I work with Oxfam as the project coordinator right for it.
Okay. Charles is a project development professional. Currently, he leads a project on right to food that aims at securing land and seeds rights of smallholder farmers from Oxfam. Very nice to have you, Charles.
Thank you so much.
I also have with me in studio here, I have Jimmy Ochom. Jimmy, very nice to have you.
Happy to be here.
Jimmy is a lawyer who specializes in human rights and has been progressively working for and with a number of organizations that look at improving access to justice, and I think in this case, land justice.
Yes.
There's something like that, is it?
Yes.
Okay. And he also works with Oxfam as a land rights coordinator. I'm being joined on Zoom by, I think, a fairly familiar face. I just saw him a little. Dennis Obo. Dennis, do I have you? Yeah? Yes. Dennis, very nice to have you.
Yes, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Dennis is Principal Information Officer or Scientist and Head of Public Relations at the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Dennis, very nice to have you. I have also with me the other guest that I have is Ronald Bagaga. Ronald Bagaga is joining us from Gulu. Ronald, very nice to have you. Ronald?
Yes, I'm getting you, Charles.
Okay.
Good evening, Charles, and corporates.
How's Gulu? Is it raining there?
No, today it's sunny, and the weather is beautiful.
Beautiful, okay. And that beautiful city of Gulu. Gulu is a city, by the way, effective July 1. So we have you joining us there. Thank you very much, Ronald Bagaga, for making time. But Ronald Bagaga is a program officer, advocacy and policy at ESAF Uganda. And he's the lead in land and investment support, the scaling of enabling voices, demanding rights tool. I want to start from here, and I want to start at the extreme end with Jimmy to ask the question: what is this issue about land that is getting us to sit down and have a discussion? We've been having many discussions. There are many discussions that are happening in different spaces about the question of land and particularly the question of women. I want you to bring it down to Uganda, and especially the communities where you have tested this tool. We'll explain the tool in greater detail in a moment. Could you just bring us up to speed? What is it that is the challenge that we face with land, and especially linked to large-scale land-based investments?
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles. Majorly, the biggest problem is that women are not involved in the issues of land, especially when it comes to large-scale land-based investments, acquisitions of land in families. So we see women are excluded, and the youth are also excluded. So we have developed this tool to be able to solve such challenges, and that's why we are here today. Okay. Yes.
Help me understand, and a viewer, when you say women are not involved, how should they be involved?
You know, culturally, we have been tied down by our cultures, where we believe that women are supposed to be below a certain sex and gender. And this tool tries to rectify that. It brings women closer to those discussions and negotiations that the men always have, and that's why we have this tool.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me come to you, Charles. Basically the same question. You're looking at a population, a country population of about 44, some people put it now at 46 million Ugandans. We're debating land, and in particular areas across this country, you can choose and pick. If you're looking at areas of northern Uganda, especially areas that were deserted by people fleeing the conflict that ran in that part of the country for 20 years, there are large swaths of land that appear available and ripe for investment in. Number two, you're looking at culture, different cultures. Communal living, especially in northern and eastern Uganda, where land is left vast for agricultural practices, farming, grazing, and hunting, and then communities that are centered in one area. If you come from where you come from, or if you come from Buganda, you think there is a lot of empty land in that part of the country. But we're focusing specifically, before we go into the details of the tool, on women not being involved. I still need clarity on that. When you say women are not involved, can you explain that in as simple a language as possible for a viewer out there who could be a woman watching us from Amuru?
Yeah, thank you, Charles, and the viewers. I think I want to start by giving a perspective, which will help us to understand why we are talking about this topic today. As you rightly noted, the population is growing globally, and Uganda in particular is also one of the fastest growing population in terms of the numbers of people that keep adding up. And globally, we're estimated to be at around 9.6 billion by the year 2050. And according to the recent statistics, by 2019, Uganda is at 44.2 million. Now, this coupled with the 2008 crisis, which was related to food, fuel, and then financial crisis. And it presented quite a number of opportunities to businesses, the agribusinesses, companies or corporations, who then started rushing in different parts of the world, including Uganda, to get land so that they can produce food to feed the increasing number of population. And this food need to produce using land. And the problem now is, in most places where these companies are rushing to acquire land to produce food, land is customarily owned. I think the biggest proportion of land in Africa is customary owned. And that means women are not always involved because of the patriarchal system, which vests male ownership, land ownership in the hands of the men more than their female counterparts. So, if you look at how investors come, they come through government because they are the ones to give them the licenses. They negotiate with the government, and this negotiation, in most cases, neglect these communities. And even when they try to involve these communities, because of the perception that women are not supposed to be owning land, they leave out women in the negotiation process. That's why, as Oxfam, we look at poverty from a broader sense, saying that we need to mobilize people, the power of voices of people power. People movement, to make sure that they talk for themselves, they demand for their rights, especially on issues that affect their livelihood directly. And land in particular is very instrumental in improving the livelihood of these rural people, or people who live in these rural communities. So the large-scale land-based investment has noted that that gap whereby women, in most cases, in all the negotiations, they're left out. And the tool has been developed in consideration of the principle of equity, gender, and community empowerment.
You raised some two issues here. One is that the government is the one that licenses the large-scale investors. And then you're saying the women are traditionally not involved. Break it down for me. The tool, as we'll go into it in a moment, what specifically are you looking at? Before we get to the women's involvement, if Eunice and Dennis sit in Kampala with their colleagues from the Uganda Investment Authority and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and they're looking at Jimmy as an investor seated before them, and they say, okay, look at the map, we see some land available here. The investor says, I have located an area where I think I want to do my investment. That aspect of involvement, could you explain it better for me?
Yeah.
Because we're seeing on television, as journalists, we are covering these land disputes all over the country every other day. And we see men and women fighting. I know the emphasis is on women, but before you get to that emphasis, I need to have that exclusion of women. How does it manifest itself?
Yeah, how women get excluded is, by the way, constitutionally, the women rights are well stipulated. Yes. That everyone will have equal rights to land and other properties. But this is not really in practice, because when you look at how land is allocated at a household level, you find that the issue of ownership and control is not really in the hands of women. Women only have access or user right. So the neglect of women sometimes is not at a national level because the Constitution says that. But the problem now comes when, let's say, an investor has come from abroad or overseas to acquire land to do investment, let's say in my village. Now, the discussion starts here in Kampala, which is the capital city of the country, and then they go there to like inform the community. This is what we are discouraging. They should not just be informed, they should be involved so that they can even decide on where that investment should be located or where that business should be located. So because sometimes women and their communities are left out, such participation start happening, that neglect in participation start happening at a higher level. And it is worst when it goes to the community because their male counterparts, in this case the men, are the ones who are considered as having the legitimate power to bargain with the donors. Not with the donors, with the investor. With the investors.
Whatever.
Yeah.
With them they go by.
And sometimes they think that this investment is very, very technical. Some of the information contained in those kind of business contracts or document is highly technical, and women cannot understand because women are highly illiterate. So that is where the neglect starts from.
Okay.
So we think that in many ways, if we don't pay keen attention on the needs of the women and how they use these resources, then we will leave them. So that's why we're saying that at the onset, women should be part of every discussion and decision that will be made in regards to any investment that will be in their communities.
Eunice, let me come to you. How do you deal with, at the Minister of Lands, because you're in charge of land in this country, what I hear from Charles there is our definition of an investor is someone who flies in from abroad most of the time, but we have people who are coming in, local investors. Yes. Someone wants land, so might come to you and say, I need some land to run this, or they are walked into your office by the Ghana Investment Authority, or maybe another office in government, negotiate with largely men. Very few women sit in that discussion, even in ministry boardrooms. And you have a delegation of largely men coming in as investors, in many cases. And then they move from here and say they have allocated land somewhere in Noya. And when they arrive in Noya, the Council of Elders that is invited to discuss the allocation of the land, if at all, after revisiting the district offices, where they find largely men, then they go to the ground, they find a Council of Elders to allocate communal land, who are mainly men and women are not involved. And then if they go to individual landowners, they're going to find, I hope I get you, I hope that's, I'm trying to paint the pictures that the tool envisages it. And then they go, they will discuss with the husbands, who are assumed to be the landowners, the rightful landowners. Is that from your ministry? I know you have interacted with the tool already.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
I have. And we've also actually been implementing the law, like he rightly stated. The legal framework on land is very clear. It's, I think 100% envisages the rights of women and how they are supposed to be protected. But what I want to say is that when we are looking at this issue, we should look at the different types of land that we are talking about. So you have land that is owned by an individual, you have land that is owned by a family, you have land that is owned by a community. So when we are talking about negotiations, whom do you negotiate with? For example, where land is owned by just a single individual. It can be an individual male or individual female. So if land belongs to a female, you must, of course, negotiate with the female. But the challenge we have is that majority of women do not own land. When it comes to, for example, if we are looking at the registered proprietors in this country, you will find that the percentage of registered women is actually low. But like he rightly stated, the biggest percentage of land in the country is under customary tenure, and it is unregistered land. So when we are looking at this issue of involving women, we must first of all identify what type of land are we talking about. Is it land that belongs to a family? If it is a family, me as a technical person, I will come in and say, this is family land. Under family land, a woman must do give consent and do all the necessary things. That is if a technical person is involved. But the challenge has also been that the so-called investors do not actually come to government. When most of these lands you've had where government has been involved has been maybe government land where actually individuals have encroached on government land. Now that one also must be handled in its own separate capacity. But where land, because the Constitution stipulates that land belongs to the citizens of Uganda. So where land belongs to you, Charles, I don't think that government will come in to say, Charles, this is your land, but your wife should maybe will not participate, or that kind of thing. So we must first identify the types of land holding that we are dealing with, that these investors are interested in, and then we could now look at how women can be properly engaged.
Let's look at your own figures of the ministry and what the two gentlemen have talked about. You admit that registered land in this country constitutes a very small percentage.
Yes.
Is it more than 20%?
It is around 23%.
Around 23%.
Yes.
Good enough. So 77% of the land in this country is unregistered.
Yes.
And largely owned customarily.
Yes, true.
How do the women come in? How does the law treat the women?
Yes.
To this vast percentage of land that is unregistered?
Yes. Now, legally, customary land is regulated by the customs and traditions of a particular area. So, customary land, this unregistered customary land is used, managed, and controlled according to the customs and traditions of a particular place. And we all agree that it is unregistered.
Yes.
So the law leaves the management, control, and use to the customs and traditions. And you very well know that there are areas, strong areas, like, for example, in Nwea district where you mentioned, you will find that they have traditional structures that actually deal with this management and control of land. In Nwea, there is someone they call a Rotkweri. That is a chief of the Ho. And then there is what they call a Rot Okoro. Rot Okoro is actually a female chief of the Ho. So they have specific structures, traditional structures, that deal with the control and management of land. Now, when we talk about ownership, ownership deals more with, I am the owner of this land. But when you look at the customs and traditions of so many places, land belongs to the family. So if we are saying land belongs to the family, it means the woman has rights to the land, the children have rights to the land, but these rights are controlled by the clan heads and their system.
And who are the clan heads?
The clan heads are male. Yes. But, for example...
So we know, let me save you that. So we know that if we go customarily, I think it's Charles who talked about it, I don't know if Jimmy also talked about it, we are largely a patriarchal society.
Yes, true.
So women have their space, not on the negotiation table.
That's true.
And the lands that investors, especially for agricultural production, that investors are looking at are largely those customary lands where they can find them in large pieces. How does the negotiation happen? Before, gentlemen, you explain the tool, which I want to go to. Let me bring in, let me first go to Gulu and bring in my friend there, Bagaga. Ronald, do I have you? Ronald?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yes,
You
please,
tell me, you are working with enabling upscaling. You're working with land and investment supporting the upscaling of enabling voices, demanding rights with ESAF. Can you explain to me what that means and exactly what you do, especially your experiences being on the ground with this land and large-scale investment in land? Is my question clear? I hope it is. Ronald? I can see you, but I can't hear from you.
I work with the biggest small-scale farmer.
Could you go over that again? I wasn't hearing you. Weren't hearing you.
Okay, I'm Ronald Bagaga. I work with ESAF Uganda, the biggest farmer movement in the country, Uganda, and a chapter in 16 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. We are privileged that we've been part this road or journey of upscaling the large-scale land-based investment tool, mostly in the greater north of the country, in Amuru, Noya, Omoro, and Amuria. Large-scale land-based investment tool looks at empowering communities, most especially women and youth, to take part in the investment processes. ESSAF Uganda works to advance sovereignty. We can only look at land and see it. And in this understanding, ESSAF Uganda took part in tool to see that there is a guarantee of women land rights in the processes of land and investment. We are aware that even my comrades who earlier talked about this subject, was that most of the women during these processes have been left out, given the fact that most of the lands in the northern Uganda or Greater North, and you find that there are so much patriarchal systems and powers, and most of these ladies or women, small-scale farmers, are left out in these processes. So as ESSAF Uganda, we wanted to see that at least women voices and youth heard in these processes. And wherever we've been rolling out this tool, at least now you see that women are appreciating the fact that they have the power and the right to participate in these processes. They have started demanding for their participation. And also in these communities, you find that they have appreciated the tool, and they are rolling out themselves even when ESSAF Secretariat staff are not in the communities. And in doing this, you see that they have dramatized it in their local dialects. You see that the women under the structures we've created, the community structures, are taking leadership under these structures, which gives us a kind of positivity that maybe if we continue rolling out this tool within these communities, women will take center stage in these processes to see that their rights are appreciated and upheld during these processes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me get Dennis. Let me get Dennis briefly. Dennis Obo, have you at the ministry interacted with this tool yet?
Yes, thank you. You know, it is the mandate of the ministry to deal with most of these land issues that affect people. Now, agricultural investments are actually done on land, and the other land where it's done well, where they don't have problem, is the registered land, the freehold, where they're the freeholds, the leases, and on minor. But when it comes to the customer, which is not registered, in fact, even the number of vulnerable people increase. It's not only women. This tool has actually shown us that you have women, you have the youth, children, people with disabilities, the infirm, the absentee people, even the guests who come. So for us, the challenge that this tool has brought out in using it is that it has actually shown that there is a very big risk of dispossession, underutilization of land, evictions, causing the problem of landlessness, and also disrupting livelihoods. It has even further revealed the issue of unfair agreements that are made with the customary owners in that setting. So to us, it is a good tool that opens up government's eyes to make sure that we are able to actually bring back the issues of respect of human rights of the various categories, not only women, but all those other customary land owners and others. They do need that protection. And the tool has given us the direction of what to do and the next steps, together with the communities arriving at it. I may give you a situation where I have seen this tool being used in Busoga, in the sugarcane growing areas. You know, we are always talking of sugarcane growing, investments coming in, but the customer landowners in that area are actually going through hell. They do not have any sort of legal documentation, so they sign agreements with the sugarcane, the people who are taking over, you know, to hire their land. They do not leave any copy with them. They underpay them, their undervaluations. They don't know even when the term of their contracts, when they are leasing, the period they are leasing is ending, you know. And then once these people have these agreements, they take on the land like their owners, and they make sure that the customer owners themselves are actually punished for doing, even moving on their land. They cut down many trees, they spoil the environment, they destroy easements, they block off wells. It is actually terrible. So this tool actually has shown that there are many interventions that need to be done. People need to be assisted, these vulnerable groups, especially, of course, the women, because we are talking about family land. And then when it comes to clan land, the clan land will not only include the women, but there are many other people who are on clan land, on communal land, those vast lands, and they actually need that protection. So that's why we think it's important to come in. The tool opens our eyes, and together under a mutual agreement, we agree with the customary owners that for sure, if you have sustainable development, you need to carry out such interventions.
Thank you,
the
Dennis.
first one that they have tried has been the registration of their land.
Thank you, Dennis. I'll come back to you. Can I come back to you in a moment? Dennis, let me come back to you in a moment. We need to take a very quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'll have Dennis complete his thought, and then I'll come to you gentlemen here to explain this tool in detail. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching this special programming from NTV. My name is Charles Mwangusha Mpagi, and this evening we're discussing addressing the land challenges, large-scale land-based investment tool, which has been developed by Oxfam Uganda and ESAF. ESAF is the East and Southern Africa Small-Scale Farmers Forum in partnership with, let me just be sure on, and it's being implemented in partnership with the government of Uganda. Just before we took the break, Dennis Obo, the spokesperson at the Ministry of Lands, was explaining how important the ministry has found this tool. I have with me in studio here, I have three panelists. I have Eunice Nabakwa. Yes, Eunice Nabakwa. It was supposed to be Eunice Nabachwa, I remember. She's a senior land officer at the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. I have with me Charles Opio. Charles is a coordinator for Right to Food Project at Oxfam, Uganda. Charles, very nice to have you. And I have also in studio here Jimmy Ochom, who's a land rights coordinator at Oxfam. He's a lawyer. I have joining us via Zoom link, I have Ronald Bagaga, who's joining us from Gulu City. And he works with as program officer, advocacy and policy at ESAF Uganda. I did introduce Dennis Obo, who's the principal head of public relations at the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Dennis, could you just conclude your thought? You're talking about the challenges that you've been facing and what the tool is helping you to understand. You are giving a very good example of how the tool is helping in Busoga sub-region with the cane growers. I have found issues in other parts of the country, but of course large-scale land-based investments, especially in agriculture, are more prevalent in plantation areas. So Busoga is a critical area. South of northern Uganda, where people are growing large-scale maize, is a critical area and other agricultural products. Could you just conclude your thought, and then I'll move to the gentleman in the studio here to explain in detail what the tool is.
Thank you. Actually, in conclusion, because I have highlighted all the challenges that the tool brings up that we had actually never realized before for the various inter-community categories, including women. Now, the tool has actually shown the need to respect not only the rights of women, but even the rights of those other users of land and also the owners. In a customary setting, there are many people who are attached and have some sort of declaration of rights to customary land. It is not good to actually leave out these when we move towards registering land, which land is ultimately going to be used, acquired for investments. Now, it shows that without registering land, even the Council of Elders that you talk about are not known by government. They are not legal entities. So the tool brings out all these who should be included in the legal entities, whose names should be in the register books, who should benefit, so that when it comes to monitoring and accountability, we do have a basis for checking that indeed the investments that have been done have benefited all the various people, including, of course, the women.
Okay, just one last question. At the ministry, you're promoting an idea of giving certificates of customary ownership. How is that going?
It is going very well. It is demand-driven. In areas where we have actually used this tool in Busoga, the demand has come up that we need now to move a step further and issue the certificate. So in the district of Namutumba, in the sub-counties of, I think it is Nabweyo, Ivukula, Chibale, and Nangondi, the demand has come up. We have given forms to families. Women and men and children have registered in an all-inclusive manner. So it is moving on well in the ministry. We have so far issued over 20,000 certificates to families, individuals, and soon we shall also be doing the same in areas where there are communal land. We have registered many communal land associations, which of course are inclusive. If you look at the registers, they have the names of the women, the men, the children, the disabled. So these are the owners and users of the land who have to now, as a legal entity, be in position to interface with the investors. So they have also realized that actually after getting the legal documentation, which is the certificate of customary ownership, the tool has brought out that you may need to go back to renegotiate some of these agreements in order to put things right. So it's going on well, and the tool has actually assisted us where we have used it.
Thank you very much. You know, you helped me with the number of 20,000, over 20,000, because you had scored yourself when you said it's going very well. And I was wanting, I wanted to ask what is very well, who's determining very well out of what target. But Jimmy, let me come to you. Please help a viewer understand what exactly is this tool we're talking about.
Okay, I'm going to explain it in the legal sense. Oxfam is an organization that deals with evidence. And so we worked together with an academic institute that is called International Institute of Sustainable Development, which helped us develop the tool. So it helped us look at the legal framework of the country and also helped us look at the international framework of the country. And then we merge to get something that is very simple for the community to understand. So in other words, the tool is a simplified laws of the country that govern the land tenure systems or the land systems of the country, and then they are backed up by the international frameworks. So, for example, if we have the constitution that says that land is supposed to be owned, I mean, compensation should be done, should be fair, free. I mean, it should be fair, it should be prompt and adequate. The international framework helps us bridge a gap of it should place you in a better place than you were before. So that is not stipulated in our laws, but the international frameworks help us. So we've integrated such kinds of principles in this tool. Okay. Yeah.
Just go over, you're the lawyer in the panel. Just go over the legal framework. Yes, I also have a lawyer in Unis here. Let's just go over that a little bit. Yes, the Constitution provides that land belongs to the citizens of Uganda. We've struggled with the land policy. We've struggled with the Land Act. The Land Act was passed in 1998. Yes, yes, it was amended, but it's been always the most contentious piece of legislation that ever gets to Parliament. I don't know any other that beats the controversy that surrounded that. So could you give me in summary, what is that legal framework that guides land in this country? Because when you use tool, yes. I'm imagining some of our viewers might get lost in translation.
Yes.
I need you to break it down to as basic language as possible. Maybe Charles will help to break it down in as basic language as possible. So you're talking about a tool. What is this tool? What I'm hearing from you is like a compendium of summarized and summarized laws regarding land. Is that it?
Yes, that could be part of it, but also it includes the experiences that that we are seeing in the country. For example, on issues of customary land. So we look at the different areas in the country where we see challenges on land, especially in customary land, and we look at the laws, we look at the international frameworks, and then we come up with something that is most understandable to the people or the community. Yes, and this is how it is packaged.
Okay.
Yes.
Charles, let me come to you. Still on the same thing, the tool. I need you to explain it in to just add on what Jimmy has shared with us. In a country that is obsessed with recognizing land rights, largely based on registered land, I think they call it the torrent system. We seem to be obsessed until you have a land title, you don't feel you own your land. And people who are on customarily owned lands get threatened constantly, get lower valuations for their land. I think when, because people don't think you really own it. If you come to Eunice or Dennis at the ministry, and you're looking at a piece of land, they go through their system, they pick out their cadastral maps, and tell you this land is, there's some land here, we don't know who owns it. So that is not clear. How does the tool address these serious issues? Yeah. And yet, the same constitution, as it's written, provides that the different land ownership systems are equal in power. In practice, it is a different thing. Yes?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, in fact, FAO developed what we call the responsible guidelines.
FAO meaning the Food and Agriculture Organization.
They developed what we call the responsible guidelines on governance of tenure of land, forests, and fisheries in the context of national security. So remember, this guideline came a little later when some of the laws of the countries were already in place. So the revisions that are happening, Uganda is a signatory. Uganda accepted to use the guidelines that the FAO developed to inform some of the revisions of the policies. And there was a full secretariat responsible for the implementation of the VGGT at the Ministry of Lands. So this tool that we're talking about, that I'm going to break a little bit, also draws a lot of principles from this international framework, like the VGGT. So the tool in a simple...
Could you give us the acronyms in full, because we may not be at the same page?
The VGGT is the responsible guidelines.
The voluntary guidelines.
Voluntary guidelines on the responsible governance of tenure of land, forests, and fisheries.
Thank you.
In the context of the national food security.
That's easier to search.
Yeah, so, as I said, so quite a number of provisions in that guideline is being factored in the revision of the policy or the different laws that the country is coming up with. So I think to say Uganda is not really recognizing that, I think it's not so true, because sorry, because if you look at the provision, they say whether land is registered or not, it's better to recognize the rights of those who benefit from that land. So Uganda is doing that, but they're encouraging registration because it's the most secure way of protecting people's land rights. So now, for the tool, it's a guideline, actually. It's a guideline that has been packaged together to help communities to understand how investment happen, how agribusiness investment happen. So in this guideline, as we say, it was developed not only by Oxfam, but by International Institute for Sustainable Development. In Uganda, we partnered with ESAF and to to pilot it, but then also to get quite a number of inputs from the community so that the tool can be improved in a way that is taking into consideration many perspectives of different countries. So the tool helps the community to understand the different stages of investment. Like the first stage is about scoping, which is like when the community has heard about, or there's a rumor that there's an investment that is going to come in our community. So at that stage, the tool helps the community to understand what they need to pay attention to in terms of their target, to get some information about that particular business, the history, what they need to do as community, like in form of organizing themselves so that they can better confront or they can better negotiate. And then also it goes to another stages of like now planning, when now there's a tacit understanding that yes, there is this investment that is going to happen. This is the size of the land that the investment want, and all those kind of things. So for every stage, because there are like 5 stages: scoping, planning, implementation, monitoring and evaluation, and then the closure. So at each and every stage, there is a provision or simple explanation of how community can engage, of what community engagement should look like, of who should be involved, of what kind of work they themselves as community need to do, what they need to, how they should define their objectives for every stage. This is a way of easing their participation in the investment. So that
on whose head does the responsibility to involve the community fall?
Actually, the tool...
Is it for the community to get involved or directly on their own? Is it for the investor? Is it for the government? Who is responsible?
We have many actors or stakeholders, including the community themselves. And in fact, we encourage community to have the hope that their voices will be heard in the discussion regarding that particular investment. So they themselves, as I said, as Oxfam, we want to empower communities. They should be the lead people in making sure that they influence the discussion and the decisions that will affect their livelihood. So people like civil society organizations, where Oxfam is, and other groups of stakeholders who have communities at heart are supposed to provide guidance. That's why we also have another set of documents in that big guide which give a little more technical information to help this person or this stakeholder like the civil society to guide the communities. Actually, what the community facilitators use, or the civil society use to train the community, are actually simple explanation with sometimes drawings or pictorials to ease or to facilitate the understanding of this tool by the communities. So the responsibility largely lies on the communities themselves, and in this case, the women. And we encourage them to have the hope that yes, their voice will be heard. And that's why every single part of this investment at every stage as outlined needs to be paid attention to. So communities should also not expect that investment will happen in a linear way, the way it has been structured in that guide. Sometimes you might find the investment is at already stage 2. So it doesn't mean you should start involving or doing things which is required to be done at stage 1.
No, but the experience, and I need Eunice to come in here, the experience of most of our communities is that one day you wake up and find people walking through your land, or what you think is your land, with tools trying to either open boundaries or, I don't know what, with machines, and they're walking around the land to try and, is that the scoping stage? Is that what you'd call the scoping stage?
No. A scoping stage is like, there is rumor. This is like, people that say, oh, we heard that company ABC is coming to set up, let's say, a sugarcane plantation in this village. But you still don't have clear information about. So at this stage, the community is encouraged to do a little more kind of fact-finding. Who is this ABC company? Where is he or she coming from? What had been the history of them?
Does the community, your typical community in a Naka village, have that capacity?
And this is what the tool does, to empower them to build their capacity. We did this in Amuro, whereby we have seen this structure that was established, because from the community engagement, a community will come up with a representative structure that engages their local authorities, because these local authorities, they are aware of what is happening in their environment. So they try to get as much information as possible. So we have seen in Amuro, where the first pilot happened, this group of people going to the district offices, the district authorities, demanding to know how many investments or investors do we have in our community? Who are they? And they got some information. Based on that, they were able to start engaging some of these. And I can tell you that there is Eden Group of Company, which is in one of the communities called Ajay in Amuro. They were engaged and they reached a very good deal at the beginning, where they said, for you to operate on our land, that which we are willing to give you, you must first help us to register our land, acquire the certificate of customary ownership. The company accepted, but later on changed because they found that it was expensive. So the capacity through this kind of tool, if embraced and understood and well delivered to the community, is there. Communities know what they want, especially when it comes to land.
Eunice, let me come to you. What is the cost involved in getting that certificate? Why would it become expensive?
A certificate of customary ownership
Yes.
is actually the cheapest legal document when it comes to land registration, because the costs involved, the applicant pays 5,000 Ugandan shillings for as an application fees.
And who is the applicant in this case?
The owner of the land.
Who's the
It
owner?
can be an individual, like I explained earlier. You, Charles, you could have your customary land. For example, in Western Uganda, we have so many pieces of land that belong to individuals. Unlike the common thinking that all customary land is communally owned. It is not true. There is customary land that is owned by individuals and customary land that is owned by family and then community.
Clan.
Yes, the clan. Yeah. So if it is customary land for the clan, the whole clan will pay. We shall first of all form a communal land association, which is a legal entity recognized under the Land Act to register its land. Because if you're a clan and you have your land, you won't go 1,000 people and say, all of us, we want to be on a certificate as individuals. You first form a communal land association, which is a legal entity involving all the members, and then the certificate of customary ownership is issued to
in the name of the association.
Yes, exactly. So that association will apply and pay 5,000. Then they will facilitate the area land committee.
Facilitation is a very interesting word. Especially
Yes, it is very interesting, especially where the fees are not regulated. So the ministry is coming up with measures to actually regulate these fees, because we've seen instances where area land committees are charging 1 million, especially when they are registering freeholds. So for customary land registration, we are regulating the fees at the sub-county level. We know that in this sub-county, where if you want the area land committee to come and inspect your land, you pay, for example, 200,000. Okay. So that is the fee. And when you're getting the certificate, you also pay 5,000.
Okay.
So it is the cheapest legal documentation you could ever have, but it is fit for purpose.
Okay.
Because it is clearly provided for that it is conclusive evidence of ownership. Yes.
Thank you. I'm afraid time is not my best ally. So I want to run through Mr. Bagaga. Bagaga, are you there? I need you to speak in conclusion, actually. So I'm going to give you about a minute to make some concluding remarks on this tool. And then I'll come to Dennis. And Dennis, I have a specific question for you. You have the Access to Information Act, 2005? 2005? Yes, 2005. Why aren't you using that to inform communities of who is applying for land in their area, so that people have this information? So, Bagaga, could you go quickly?
Thank you, Charles. As of Uganda, we believe that large-scale land-based investments are not bad. They can benefit communities or farming communities. But the situations or experiences we are seeing kind of not point to the direction or interest we would love our compatriots, the small-scale farmers, to be being engulfed in. So we look forward to see that investment audits are done in the communities, maybe annually, to see that at least the commitments also show corporate responsibilities being made by the investors, but also to make sure that farming communities with specifically women and youth take part where their voices are being tabled and heard in the investment processes. But this can be only achieved when ESAF Uganda and other civil society organizations, the ministry and other stakeholders join hands to see that these IFPC principles and VGGT guidelines are localized in the communities, appreciated by the communities, but also local governments to see civil society and small-scale farmers as pertinent partners in the large-scale land-based investment or land and investment.
Thank you very much. Can I have Dennis? Dennis, also in summary, you have a responsibility to inform these communities so that they have a basis to make their demands, like Charles was saying here. That responsibility should fall on the government, not the communities.
Yes, it's true. Actually, the ministry has an access to information manual, which is provided for under the law that each ministry has got to produce this and put the procedures of all the transactions. We do have this document. We have distributed it widely, and it has been one of the documents that has helped people understand that there is need to register your land, the fees you pay, where you go, and what to do. So that one we have. We are even thinking of translating it into local languages so that we can actually distribute it widely for people to understand.
Thank you.
Now, on my concluding remarks,
yes,
I think for us as a ministry, we shall continue using this tool because it helps us bring up issues of transparency, inclusiveness, prior informed participation in our interventions, especially regarding registration of land. The need to respect women has always been there, and we shall continue to recognize it because it gives them a voice. But when it comes to customary land, we shall add other vulnerable groups, which I mentioned, alongside, of course, the men.
Okay.
Now, we also believe that this tool will help the communities be able to make independent and holistic decisions after we have registered and taken them through the constitutions and what they can do, so that when they're interfacing with investors, they can make proposals that are actually helpful and that can give them an equal setting. Lastly, I think important that we continue using this tool because of the high standards that it brings in.
Thank you, Dennis.
In terms of cooperation and collaboration.
Thank you very much. Please don't think about the translation. Go ahead and do the translation of this. You have a responsibility. So I'm going to give 20 seconds to Jimmy, 20 seconds to Charles, and 20 seconds to Eunice. That's a minute.
Yes.
Conclusion.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that private companies and investors should not think that when they come into the country that their work is only business, but also create socio-economic transformation. We have realized that so many industries and investors in different areas of the country exist, but we don't see change in the community. And that is what we are calling upon through this tool.
Thank you very much. Charles?
Yeah. I think my appeal to different actors, including the media, is to create a platform where information can be really disseminated and to focus really more on organizing the communities and equipping them with different kinds of information like the ministry is talking about. I think for us, we believe that yes, this agribusiness says, oh, this investment is very helpful because they also have quite a number of benefits, but how they enter and are received in the community is what matters. That's why we want communities to be part of it, so that they can be in position to accept or reject when it is not in line with what they perceive as something that can really change their livelihood.
Thank you. Eunice, you have the last word.
Yes, as ministry, we are committed to using this tool, continue to carry out our mandate of securing land rights, and I can assure you that the rights of women are going to be respected, and in the process of land registration, women's names must actually appear on the legal documents. So that is basically what I can say.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eunice. Let me just add one thing. I share this with all my female friends, especially the ones that have an education. They shouldn't shy away from owning land themselves because they leave that responsibility to the men. So they spend their money on other things and they don't go to own land. But if they're going to protect their rights, they need also to get involved in that space as a very important first step, especially for the elite. Then you can use that as a basis to protect the women in the countryside, the rural women, the less educated women. And like Dennis rightly put it, other vulnerable groups, people with disabilities, people with infirmity of one sort or the other, the elderly get dispossessed quite a lot. We've been discussing addressing the land challenge with the large-scale land-based investment tool with a panel from Oxfam Uganda. I had, I don't want to mispronounce the names of the gentlemen I have here, Jimmy Ochom, who's a land rights coordinator at Oxfam. I also had Charles Opio, who's coordinates the Right to Food project at Oxfam. I have Eunice Nabakwa from the Ministry of Lands, Dennis Obo, also from the Ministry of Lands, and Ronald Bagaga from ESAF Uganda. My name is Charles Mwangusha Mpagi, and I'd like to thank you all our viewers for joining us this evening, and thank the production crew that enabled us to have this discussion. For me, it's a good evening.